welcome to another episode of Lifestyle After 5. As always, I'm your host, Ali, along with my co-host, Lord Shu. He's not just a co-host, he's a co-host moderator extraordinaire, the one that keeps the wheels turning and the bills paid. And today, of course, we are exploring futurism on our Futurism series with my man below, Rich Brankowski. And
Woo!
today we are talking about self-efficacy in the digital age. Now, we got basically an app for everything now. You got Chat GPT. I mean, whatever you can think of, there's some digital tool that can help you out in today's world. Now, does it boost your confidence or does it challenge you? Is it overwhelming? Are we taking lead and control of of the digital age, or is the digital age dragging us along for the ride? Rich is going to break all that down today as he dig into self-efficacy. Welcome,
What?
Rich.
Hello, Ali. Hey, Lord. What's happening? Ready to get
I'm,
tested?
I'm definitely ready. I'm definitely ready. But before we get into it, I
Same,
know some of them
same.
probably saying, "What is self-efficacy?" I never heard of that.
Yeah. So, all right. So, self-efficacy is a person's personal belief in their ability to complete a task or a goal. Right. It encompasses all
Hmm.
of their confidence in themselves, in their control of their behavior. The
Hmm.
influence on their environment and their ability to stay motivated to pursue their goals. And so, what we'll address today is digital self efficacy. But note that this kind of applies everywhere, so
Hmm.
in medical world, nursing, as a teacher, right? So, and it's actually measurable in some ways.
Oh,
So,
really?
if you're, yeah, there are, well, yes, and we'll kind of go a little bit into that later, right? But, so what we're, so it's like if you're a nurse, right? And, you're not sure, you no longer have the confidence, right, that you're going to be able to, do your job or control the scenario around your job or the ability to even kind of move on or learn more about your job. So just think about that strike three against you if your self efficacy is so low, right? Teachers kind of go through this themselves, right? Can I do my job? Do I have the skill set? Do I believe in myself? Does the people around me believe? Do I believe that I can keep on going and become a better teacher? Right. So we'll be able to bring this into a digital environment more, and where I specialize this is kind of both within organizational and then again personal leaderships, because some people, and again how quickly technology moves, and all the other kind of FOMO, fear of not kind of not knowing what you don't know. But basically, we're going to be going over 21st century abilities, and then the kind of need or for lifelong learning, because it doesn't stop. It's that last part of it, the ability to move forward, to stay motivated. These are all part of your self efficacies. And a kind of a really good example is it might be better if we kind of do it later, but when you're, let's just say you're going in for a job, I think anywhere in the
Hmm.
21st century, that obviously has a digital connection. I'm not saying that, you know what? Maybe a lot of the other, I mean, kind of think of it that way. If you want to kind of use the term blue collar worker, there's,
Hmm.
there's a certain amount of that, that kind of goes in. And so there's a psychological component to self efficacy, right? Because, people have self efficacy, for various different situations, right? Mostly again, and around right now, it's kind of around work, around school, and kind of around
Hmm.
relationships, important. And it plays an important
Wow.
role.
And this is very important because you just hit what 95% of the world is struggling with, losing that confidence right now as you age, and there's a lot of job loss going as people are transitioning over into the digital age. And even myself, I've struggled with that. Do I have the confidence to do certain jobs that I once had? And as the world has changed, how do I compete? Whether it's in the work world, whether it's in relationships, you got a lot of people that stuck me, due to hurt, trauma, don't know if they are ready to date again or get back on the wagon. And students, can I learn that? Is it too much for me? So you just hit on a whole mouthful when you said that.
Yeah, it's very important. Again, it's very important to, again, and to have it obviously, but also to know where you're missing or what might be missing. And again, although it is in the digital world, we're not going to be getting really too much into anything kind of technical, but it's your technical abilities. And it's not even technical abilities. It's a big part of digital self-efficacy is the ability to communicate in these kind of worlds, right? Like a good example I like to have is like, when you know, if you want to kind of put it into like a bucket or something like that, right? So say you're going on a job interview, and the role is that you need to know how to use a Windows based computer, right? You got Windows and you got Mac, right? So someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm going to give you these things. You got to do it within like the Windows environment, right? So you have to know how to use PowerPoint, this, that, whatever, and Outlook, right? Look how
Hmm.
and you have that skill. You're like, all right, bring it on, right? I can do this, you know." But say someone kind of does that to you and says, "Okay, here's the job. You're going doing this and this and that, but we only use Mac around here, right? Have you ever seen
Hmm.
someone who's like Windows based, Windows taught, and then try to use a Mac computer,
Yeah,
right?
I've struggled with that before. Yes.
And then oh wait a minute, is my confidence? Wait, where's the cursor? How does it kind of do that? Like kind of like So it's kind of like, so if you needed to kind of put it in one way, it's like that, but in a much kind of grander scheme, right? And then we'll go over like kind of what so far the system is kind of considering in these what's necessary for this digitized world that we live in, and whether or not you even kind of want to be a part of it. Like I do run across that sometimes. So again, a quick example, and we'll go into it a little deeper, is I'll address it and I'll say, okay, one of the issues or one of the things that we're going to be looking at or testing or measuring is your ability to use social media. And the first thing sometimes I'll get, I don't go on
Hmm.
social. Like, that's not for me. In fact, I don't want to know anything about social media. I want no one on social media to know anything about me. Where do you go, right? Where,
Hmm.
like I'm saying, like, okay, this isn't for you then, right? If you're that against, it, and kind of how it goes. So there will be kind of versions of that, and that's basically how we were able to do my how I will do my gap analysis. I'll be able to tell how many people on your team have any of these like skill sets, but not even that, or not even motivated to kind of get these skill sets. They kind of want to take, they're going to step, right? And I'm like, oh, that's great. That's good, because now where, or at least the company's going to know, at least maybe where we should do our training, or maybe this isn't for you, and then there's kind of things like that. So but
Well,
self-efficacy, important, because it your role, and kind of and how you feel
well,
about it, and whether
well,
or not you're going to be successful in it.
well, I'm very excited as we get into these empowering stories. I should
Yeah,
bring my pen and paper. I would love to take notes.
yeah,
Yes, all take out notebooks. For real. It's
yeah.
about to go down now.
Yeah, it's about to go down now. Again, it might get a little kind of sensitive, because we all know, on like, I think by just kind of watching the news and stuff like that, there are some skill sets here that we're going to be addressing that, let's say, might make some people uncomfortable, both on it and on the fact that they don't know it, right? So we'll again kind of go there, but so again, it's not too much about the like, there is like a self-efficacy is kind of good, but there is some kind of basic parts of digitalness that you need to even have to even kind of get close to even being measured in your ability of it, right?
Hmm.
um so and everyone's different, right? Everyone's situation is different. Everyone is, domain is different. We could be talking about someone who's in a school environment right now. We could be talking about someone who's having a work, again, in work. It could be someone who is the leader in the work. And with so much going on and how quickly technology moves, if the leader doesn't have self-efficacy in the environment that they're in, technical or not, they again start to lose confidence. And the other aspect and about the psychology of self-efficacy is that again, there's a psychological component to this, right? There is, can I do it? And am I, even have like kind of like the abilities to do it? And we'll kind of get more into, hopefully by the end of this, you'll have kind of a better understanding. So not only get your paper and pencil, but go get a mirror. Everybody go get a mirror, because this is like, again, you're going to be looking at, a lot of different things. Don't be looking at no paper.
Deep.
In today's digitalized world, again, it affects all parts of your life. And again, education, school, like, kind of where I'm going. And your competency in these digital systems become very critical, a critical skill set for all the areas of life, including education and work, right? So we're kind of talking about 21st century, abilities. And there's an aspect of life and also lifelong learning, right? Because the last part about, efficacy is that the fact that you have the ability to, influence your environment and stay motivated to continue to go, no one knows everything, right? And what you're trying to get out of this is to find out what you don't know. So, competency in digital systems, which is basically kind of broken down to both into information and then into communications of these systems, have become essential skills. And if you don't want to acknowledge that, right, here is your first red flag in your self-efficacy, right? Because like, is this important?
Yeah.
Right? Is this is like, I'm not gonna, do I have to even acknowledge that this is an essential skill that I need to kind of move forward? So there's going to be a lot of these things. You'll start to see, again, I'll leave them as red flags, or more, just kind of more as in gap analysis of what we need to do to move on, right? So when I, again, as a futurist, and when we're kind of going down, like, again, product development, or if we want to kind of know about like the demographics, or again, without some of these kind of basic stuff, none of that means anything.
So, Rich, if I'm hearing you correctly, as we go through this, you need to be evaluating yourself, seeing where do you measure up on these things, and seeing if there's some red flags and areas that you need to look deeper into.
And for the technical versions of what we're talking about, yes, now, but that's true for everything in some forms, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to your ability, your So yes, it's, and this also falls into the lifelong learning, right? So even like once you identify it, you're gonna have to put your time into it, right? You're gonna have to kind of work at it, And again, is it are you able to kind of go down this line? Again, one thing might be, I didn't even know I was supposed to be doing this, right? Or this was important, right? Doesn't mean that you're not going to do it. Doesn't mean you can't be, taught, but it might be good for you to know that you're supposed to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least the digital industry, the kind of, the digitation of everything is going in that direction, if you want to be part of it or not, right? So that's what it opens up, right? But again, this is about an individual's kind of need to, increase their abilities, and adaptability to meet the increasing demand, and more importantly, seize the opportunities that are coming up of all the things that we have talked about in the past, especially like Industry 4 and all that stuff, right? That a lot of that stuff is kind of laid out, but just people don't even kind of know it. And then or your confidence in your ability to kind of go into an organization or lead an organization and say, I got this, right?
If you don't, and for the listeners who don't know what Industry 4 is, go back and watch our previous video, Industry 4.0.
Tons of stuff there. And, one catalyst of all of this was COVID, right? COVID drove a digitation process into areas that, were never kind of, or at least what we thought might even take 5-10 years to even get there. And then also the need to be competent in these kind of interactive areas on the kind of systems.
Now, Rich, have you paid attention? I don't know whether it's someone personally or any celebrity or anyone that you know that you would consider have great self-efficacy that you've seen the growth of, or seen them move through the stages or whatnot.
I mean, yeah, like I would say within the organizations and some of the people that I have worked with, I would have to go with yes. I mean, I'm not to go with this. Probably there was like a small tail, like you know, 2% of, like, let's just say, of the people that I have noticed that are just so locked into their way, into their system, right? And I guess in some people, like if you want to use the Matrix, the movie of the Matrix, right? You
Hmm.
can't wake people up out of the Matrix because they're so embedded into their way, into their into their mindset. This is a very big mindset kind of question,
Hmm.
right? It's not lack, it's your ability to kind of go, to kind of come in.
Now, I'm trying to paint for the listeners right now with self-efficacy. If there's just like a general understanding of what that looks like. I mean, is it a matter of seeing like when I think of self-efficacy personally, I look at someone like a Jeff Bezos, how you go from selling books from Amazon to now you pretty much running everything all over the world, from selling anything, any and everything, to government server contracts. Would that be an example you would say, or am I off base?
No, no, you're on base, but it like for there, it has to do with, I got as far as I'm selling books and I'm doing this, right?
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden I am getting through certain, for certain reasons. And again, if you want to leave it in some of the other future thinking kind of skill sets and
Hmm.
methodology, I'm hearing signals that people also want to buy furniture online. People are
Hmm.
calling me, people are asking when I'm going out, and people are saying, "Wow, I love that! I can get this book. Damn, I wish I can kind of get a couch that way." Right now,
Hmm.
you already know how to do it with the books, right? You already know how to like skew numbers and inventory control and all of that. So you kind of have that confidence, right? That you can be able to kind
Hmm.
of go into, and but you're gonna have to start learning you know what is the most sold thing, what am I going to keep in my inventory, what I'm not going to keep in my inventory, kind of things like that. And then to again replicate that as you continue to learn. So then it could be things like, oh my god, my computer system is outdated, I'm using some kind of operating system. You don't have to know the operating system or that kind of going, but at least you should be have the confident level to say I don't have it and I have to get it or I got to learn it, right?
Hmm.
So it's again, it's never like a direct line because one, humanity is very complex and by
Hmm.
itself, and then our systems are very complex. So it's going to be difficult to make this real for everybody. So that's why I'm trying. We're going to keep in very kind of generalized terms. But again,
Okay.
the confidence to say that it's a confidence that you have it, but even kind of more equally important, it's a confidence to say that you don't have it, but you're going to get it, right? And they're going to
Okay.
say, how, so you kind of go into a job and they're going to go, okay, you reach 3 of the 5 things that we have, right? What are you going to do, or what's going to happen for you to kind of get to these other 2 things for you to be, let's just say, set, or, and the person has to come back with something like hustle, right? I'm going to hustle my
Hmm.
way to those other 2. Not I'm going to hang out or whatever you want to kind of bring to the table. I'm going to bring, or kind of, so there's an aspect of that, again, that kind of confidence. I got this. Don't, we'll do it together. I'll do it kind of for you. I'll keep you updated, but since I can do these other 5, these other 3 things, these other 2, will be kind of coming down the line. But it's not like, the self-efficacy part of it is like, no, 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 I'm not, I'll do one but not the other, right? Or
Hmm.
there's no way I'm going to be able to learn this, or kind of that's somebody else's job. These are kind of the other things again. So again, I know a lot of it is kind of nebulous, but I hope I was able to answer your question.
You did, because it kind of gears us as we go into, now that a person has done the evaluation and they realize the red flags, as you call it, and the self-efficacy is low, and they're conscious of that right now. So now, how do you go by raising your self-efficacy now that you are aware and know that it exists.
Yeah, well, we're gonna so there is a measurement system for self-efficacy and systems. And again, the system that we're talking here is digital, like digital, digitalization, right? Or your,
Hmm.
again, your ability, for it to kind of get into it. And something like the SAT, although that's been proven wrong, but I think you'll know what I mean. Like research has shown that your confidence or your competence belief is actually a determination of future success and how individuals will kind of work into this and how much, and again, their willingness into this, right? So,
Hmm.
um, if you're again, if you start to show, or again, if again, that your confidence and again, it is just a place that gives you uh, um, a start on where to where to start to kind of to kind of get better at it, right? So you can say, okay, I know I need to learn how to use all of like these um there's some amazing like AI uh like movie generators, um you know um what do you call it, like kind of production technologies, like how to make move like
Hmm.
you know things around, and as a kind of, I guess like a rare poor example.
Hmm.
And and there's 6 of those systems out there right now, so you kind of going in, learning, or at least top line, or at least watching the tutorials of those systems will give you the confidence level to be able to kind of go in next day and kind of get in and kind of and start working on it. And you'll start to kind of find the things that you like, you don't like. You start to say, oh, I remember in this other system that I was able to cut and paste something right into here. And so now I'll be able to, now with this new system that I'm learning, my confidence level is pretty good, right? Like, and then my creativity can get better. Or how can I bring more of myself now with these new tool sets that I have? And how can I
Right.
kind of share that, and how I can kind of share that around?
So you got quiet. What's your take on some of this? I know
Well,
we definitely look at a lot of this.
Just from everything being said, I think this whole time I just been thinking about like, okay, well, we have wasted potential and we have wasted resources, and I think this is kind of is a good way to lead people into not wasting potential, because that's where a lot of resources get wasted because people don't know, or they're miseducated, or they don't want to know. So I just think too, like self-efficacy is kind of important. I mean, it's like the basis of futurism in a way, because in order for people to manifest and imagine a positive future, first they have to realize that, okay, well, somebody has to build the future. So it takes those people who understand those skills that Rich is talking about. They have to want
Well,
to not waste their potential.
and I think it's even better now in the future because I look at myself back in the day when I was trying to learn SAP, which is a software how to use SAP. There was nothing out there. The only way you could really learn SAP was to actually come into a company and be taught. There wasn't many books. Nowadays, you got LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, you got YouTube. So you can be exposed to just about anything now in the digital age. But previously, you couldn't. You didn't have access, or if you were lucky, you could find a book somewhere in a library on it. So definitely, I think is the era to take advantage of it.
Again, 100% kind of across the board on that. Again, it's a mirror, right? You're kind of looking in, on this stuff. Or again, if you step back and if you want to look at it, it was a company, both, I as a leader, how can I start, leading my team and all these kind of basic 21st century stuff if I don't even have like a grasp on it, or I don't even know what I don't know, right? And kind of things
Mhm.
like that. And then and then the other thing that I see is like, okay, here's my, here are my lieutenants, right? I got 5 guys,
Mhm.
5 girls, a mix, whatever, that are, just, who I'm, who again, they're my, my lieutenants. and and then I kind of, we can kind of run through their efficacy on kind of like what they need to know, or what they, or kind of don't know, to kind of move that, that our company forward. Like one of them may be a whole, might be an anchor, a bit like a stopping block kind of thing to some of the stuff that we need to be doing. Or I'll be surprised to hell to find out that this person doesn't, is not even on the same pages as we are, right? So like again, so they're like, and
Hmm.
then once we can kind of open that part of it in a safe environment, right? No one's going to be getting fired. No one's going to be right, because a very big part of futurism is giving, a safe environment for everyone to kind of, to express themselves, to kind of work, and so that, a person can kind of come and say, hey, you know what, I just, now after this kind of test, I have noticed I'm missing three things here, and like one of them is, that, or I can kind of now see that I'm, I'm not part of this team as I thought I was, right? And so what do we do, right? And again, a good leader, a good manager, again, is someone who knows that this person has potential and, has loyal. You can't buy loyalty these days, right? So,
Hmm.
here is what we're going to do. We're going to put in a program that's going to, both for anyone who kind of wants to know how to do this kind of stuff, or wants a refresher on this kind of stuff and all that. And so we could, now we're all on the same page, right? Then I can kind of see how people will use their creativity, how they can kind of do things to kind of get to the next level.
But you made a key point there. You said as a good manager would do that, and I know in a lot of organizations, a lot of people dealing with don't have good managers, and which is it's funny to me because we've gotten rid of training and everything and leadership in a lot of companies where they're not reaching. It used to be you come in, you train, and if you didn't know something, someone would make sure that you came up to speed. Nowadays, if you don't know it, you out.
Yeah. It's a
No
poor
mercy.
way of managing this kind of stuff. Yeah. I may have mentioned, I have done something like this in the past. Like, we used to have like, I forgot what you call them. Kind of, you kind of like when you're like a beginning, if you're getting into plumbing or electrician, or
Apprentice.
like apprenticeships, right? We've completely got rid of
Yeah,
like apprenticeships
apprenticeships. Yeah.
in all of like places that don't, obviously, that don't have it, right?
Hmm.
And so yeah, it's basically all trial by fire, sometimes. And again, if you're putting
Hmm.
people in those kind of positions, kind of immediately, it's good. You gotta, again, you always got to kind of test yourself, all that kind of stuff. But if you're positioned to fail immediately, then where does that go?
Hmm.
Like, wow, how much money is being wasted? How much of that is kind of going on, right? So, and then do you want to work for a place that's kind of positioning you to fail, right? I mean,
Hmm.
everyone's desperate for money now. Everyone wants good jobs and all that kind of shit. But we're not going to move forward. And I agree that this should be done kind of on a company level. And again, it's going to be very exclusive. Very almost intimate to what your company does, right? So somebody who is a pharmaceutical company is not going to do the same thing as an automobile company, right? But the identifications of those kind of missing skill sets and your self-efficacy to continue is, you know, it's the same, but they're just going to have different kind of basics. The problem I have is that in some ways, and again, I don't know everything, right? I'm kind of, in New York, and I try to kind of keep up. I'm a multidisciplinarian, kind of different subjects. But the European Union or the European Commission has like ordered a digital competency for all of their citizens, so that they all have the confidence, and the kind of, the critical and responsible use of digital, technologies, and how to engage with them, to use for work, for learning, and kind of all, to do any kind of participation in society. I don't see that in the US. I don't kind of see,
Yeah, man.
our system is so fumbly, and kind of for a thousand different reasons. And again, I try not to, I'm not going to throw, I'm not, I'm sure I'm part of the system in some way, but you don't see like a national version of this that, hey, we're in the 21st century, we got to make sure that everybody knows how to do at least these kind of things. And if we don't, we have to add that into our into our curriculum. And so I like it on a company level. I would really like to see it on a national level, right? So
But many people probably would refute it and would try to fight it as we don't like change in the US. And a lot of people, some people saying we're relying too much on digital technology as it is.
yeah, but they don't know why they say that.
Oh, of course
Right?
not.
So, that's what I'm
We
saying.
always
Like,
say
yeah,
things we don't know why. That's a new thing.
right.
We
So
just
I'm
say
saying,
things we don't ever know why.
well, no, they don't know why. But I think if you kind of go down, like again, some of these like kind of competency areas and kind of in digitation, maybe they'll start to learn why, or something like that,
Hmm.
right? So, I mean, what really is kind of going in there is like these dimension of different competencies, and it, some of it is around information and data literacy, right?
Hmm.
People talk about data, people talk about information, but do they really know what everyone's talking about when they're mentioning that? When they're saying that the this company has opened up their behind the firewall of all the data that they have, and or all the data that AI is collecting, or kind of training. Does anyone really know what that means? Or
Hmm.
who does or who doesn't, right? The other big parts of digital competency is the ability to communicate and collaborate with this information, right? It's not just phase one. How do I go and be able to take all this information that I'm now learning with the use of AI systems that, again, are kind of never, like historically never, heard of before, right? So how do I communicate to it? How do I communicate to technology? And this kind of goes into like prompting and stuff, which isn't kind of necessary or whatever.
Now, do
And then
you
how
have
do
any
I,
recommendations there?
yeah, well, you know what? Let's finish those kind of five
To go.
competencies right
Okay.
now, because I
Okay. Let's
really
go ahead.
think,
Okay.
again, without like if you just have number one and number two, I mean, you kind of get it, right? Just look about how
Hmm.
much you thought about, again, if you are not a someone who understood how information and data is how it's collected, how to how to read it and how to kind of do different things like that, you would think that would be enough. Then like
Hmm.
almost like lifelong, right? But then when I'm telling you, you have to learn how to communicate and collaborate with other people with that kind of information, that's a whole nother line, right? I mean, unless you're in a box, right? Unless you kind of like your job is sit in this box and count potatoes, right? And then
Hmm.
and then that's good, right? Now potatoes, how many you have, this, where you're getting your potatoes from, like, but to be able to tell who needs to know how many potatoes I have, or from the ability for me to kind of connect to all the chefs in the world and let them know that, potatoes are here, and this is these work better in this kind of environment, and this one cooks better here, right? So the other one is digital content creation, right? That's a demand coming from everywhere, not just kind of your own podcasts and your own kind of things like that, right? Because a 21st
Hmm.
century company wants to know if you can kind of create stuff like this with the information that you just got, with the from the digital, from the data, from what you learn from your communication stuff, right? And how do you present this in a way that you are now your creation aspect. The fourth is safety, right? So if you want to kind of leave it as cybersecurity, right? Do again, how to use your phone, how to use email, how to use kind of stuff that you're not opening up the door for some way for somebody to kind of come in and do, the problem. So you're even aware of it, that, someone might be able to kind of do that. So safety is actually really, again, down, really down to, down to the square tax, whatever that means, to have again just some kind of level of understanding and level and a confidence level to say, oh shit, I'm not going to open up that email. you know I know
Yeah.
my Amazon account is getting hacked, whatever like that. And so and kind of all these kind of different things, like people calling and whatever. And then problem solving in general, how do I solve a problem, right? And again, there are like really basic kind of stuff, which again I don't think is even taught anymore in schools, or kind
Oh
of, and if
no.
it is, kind of brushed over, right? And so some of these are like cognitive skills. This is all about brain, in some part. Like so there are some general skill. All right, so let me kind of go back to your answer, but I guess your question before. Like again, it's hard to answer it because everyone in every place is so different, right? So,
Hmm.
but there are like again, there are basics that we can kind of that can be learned, can be refreshed to kind of get into into these levels. But the first step of it is to know that you don't know it, or that you're really bad at it, or it's moving so fast that you should at least know like the top two or three things. You don't have to be a master in it, but at least know it's there, know what it's supposed to do, you know. And then the ability to kind of again take this information, use it, solve, share it, get information back, have again the confidence to say, okay, I'm now familiar with this system. I'm now familiar on kind of what this data is collecting, and so again, it's never really an easy answer in this, again, but it does
Hmm.
exist, right? And in the measurement systems that I use, or the current systems that I use, one are just kind of general cognitive skills, like uh, you know uh, again, it's so kind of difficult. Let's kind of leave it as that, right? But just like
Hmm.
it's like again, how to think. It might be kind of like one way you want to look at it, right? And then which we kind of noticed, at least I noticed horribly during the whole presidential election cycle, that there is a deep, deep missing understanding of some like general cognitive skills.
Oh yeah, I think we've been missing that for years. We're more like on buzzwords and keywords now.
Right.
Nobody knows how things work or
Yeah.
even pay attention. That amazes me how that even happened.
Yeah. Critical, critical thinking and all of that is again very, clearly important, regardless of who wins the presidency. There is, uh, we have been able to, pull the look under the skirt of, like, let's just say, of what what America is, right? And then now we know, like I'm saying, we know where to kind of not force the issue, but at least present the issue. Because you're right, there is a lot of people who are not going to go for this. They're not, again, they're so embedded in their system, they're so racist to their understanding of data, of something new, of kind of any of those kind of things, that they're kind of not going to go down that line, right? So again, along with cognitive skills, it's just basic computer skills, right? So everyone should have a basic computer skill, like in the
Hmm.
21st century, if you like it or not, and again, if you're not, and but
You
it
just got to
also
get
comes,
with the program.
yeah. And again, and the other part about, and again, in these things is again your attitude, your personal attitude toward all these things, right? Again, it's measurable, comes probably obvious, but if your attitude around a lot of these things, and it's a kind of digitation of the world, your mindset, your attitude is poor. Again, we'll leave it as kind of the checkbox, and there could be none, which is one checkbox. But if it's even, I think I'd rather take somebody who has no skills than has a kind of a poor attitude about these skills, right? It's like kind of, and that's kind of really where self-efficacy kind of comes. It's that mindset and attitude toward this whole part of it kind of going on, right? And so along with problem solving, again, just for to you to be aware of your own competency, so you can have confidence in the ability to kind of go on. No one knows what the next step is going to be, right? But if you have the
No.
confidence for it, kind of go in and you have some base understandings, or at least know where the gaps are, your competent gaps that you can kind of start working on. That it's not someone else's problem. It's not your company's like role. I've kind of been talking about that for some time. Don't be waiting for your boss to teach you how to do this stuff. Don't be waiting for your your job to kind of
Oh yeah.
stop and say, oh, wait a minute, let's kind of do this, that. Again, a good company will do that, maybe kind of earlier on, but it's your responsibility.
Very
That's the
rare.
mirror I want to take a look at. Right. And again, there, people are kind of waiting around. It's not like kind of not my job is something that you hear a lot.
Hmm.
There's also a kind of another really horrible thing that I see. And again, when I study gender gaps and I start and study different things like that, and this is almost a global crisis. And I'm going to pick on the males, in the kind of in the universe on this because it kind of falls in their way, but it really kind of across the board when it comes to, like, just say young people, if you want to leave it as that, right?
Hmm.
I forgot there's a Chinese word for it. I think it's called baoling, and it's just let it rot is what they're saying. They're like, I go to school, I can't find work, like there's no relationships kind of waiting for me out there, all that. So I'm just going to kind of sit home and play video games that my mom and pops plays. I'm just going to let it
Wow.
all run and then let it kind of go, and it'll fall apart, and then we'll kind of figure it out from that part. Where that's such a, I understand where that
That's a
comes from.
hard way to go. That's a hard
I
way to
do.
go. Seem like
Yeah. So So let's measure your self-efficacy about digital world if you're sitting around waiting for it to rot,
hmm
right? So there's some kind of really basic things on that, and then going back to, let's just say, the ignorance, that we're kind of been used to, or living with, or something like that, is and I'll kind of go down like at least the five um subjects or kind of definitions of competency in digital world that that I use, and most people are using until it becomes obsolete, which will most likely by the end of this podcast, right? But it's like, so before I get into that, you guys want to kind of, I don't know if you want to jam into something on there, or maybe share personal experience, kind of what you see in those kind of bowling, or the attitudes that are either taught or put up with, or any of the other things that
I know I have dealt with a lot of people. Well, I won't say a lot of people. Those that have been resistant to technology. Like I said, just yesterday, I was talking to a friend. He hates everything technology, and I was telling him, oh, we was looking at a star, and I pulled out my phone and I put up Google Sky Map, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's Venus. That's why that star sign. And he's like, how did you know? I didn't know anything about that. And I'm like, it's technology. I'm like, we're not plowing fields with mules anymore. I'm like, you're not going to be able to run the race relying on without going into technology. He's like, well, if the power goes out, at least I know how to feed myself. I'm like, if the power goes out, there's going to be mass destruction off of electricity. You can't flush your toilet without power. So people forget that the world won't move if we don't have power. And it's not in the old day. Everything is on a digital grid now. It's just only a
and
matter of
continue,
time.
right? Yeah. So
So,
Lord, you've been way too
should
quiet
you
there.
have
What's going
anything
on?
there? Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be
You
honest
take
with you, I just kind of am back at the same thing again with well, okay. So to me, wasted potential is like uh it's pretty much like the start. Like, okay, if I don't care about what's going on, well, obviously you're not focused. So, you know, it really all of this starts with the individual themselves. So I just think about, okay, well, the overlords, they put in all this work. They was like, okay, I'm just gonna learn all of this stuff. Now there's computer science. We'll just give it to the world, let them kind of keep up with it. But people like us, we're just in the mix. We're like, okay, well, we understand that these people making this technology, the only way to really keep yourself safe in it is to understand it to like the fullest extent of it. But I just think that because
or just
people
the basics,
like yeah, well, just even the basics, yeah,
right? Yeah,
because
even
that's
basic.
like
Don't
a
go for
gateway.
fullest. Yeah, you don't wish for
Yeah,
full.
it's like
Just go for
one joint
basic.
hit, you hit the joint one time, and then boom, now you smoke forever. Yeah, this is what how it starts. But I just think people in this world, a lot of there's people that are people, and then there's like not people. So I look at it like, okay, well, the people that are actually here, that's not just like in the mix of just society going along. those people are kind of already they're watching this, so they know that they're keeping up on the right path. So I'm already there. Yeah, I'm already there with them.
You
I
have a
don't
great
even.
audience that they're giving that they're coming here and they're willing to kind of again take a good look in the mirror, right?
Mhm.
And kind of see again we see you go and it's perfectly okay not to know this. Again, it's no one's really kind of teaching you this in some forms. Again, depending on where you are, what you're doing, who you work for, what school you went to, again, it's complex. But for for a lot of others, some of I won't say it's probably new because we do live in the 21st century, right? Like you're going to the movies, you're watching TV, you're listening to the news. These things are kind of going on, and but yeah, if what's going on, but and you may even have like the hardware and software tools in front of you to get to this information, right? But again, you may not know, and again, you might know what to do with it once you even have it, right? And that's kind of the other part of self-efficacy, right? So like the like number one across the board, and again, if we can get 90% of the people who are behind, or if you want to kind of leave it at that, or not part of the the digital world, is again the use of information and data, like the literacy of it, right? And that just means knowing how to browse, how to search, and then how to filter data, right? Like so even right there, that'll give you an opportunity to kind of like what I say, and everyone says like just do like, one level of research, right?
Hmm.
Or, and don't go deep, just go one level, right? But if you don't know how to get there through like browsing or how to use search kind of, in a smart way or kind of stuff like that, and then be able to kind of filter it. That's the other part of it, right? I can put all this information in front of you, but if it's bullshit, I don't want you to, you should be able to be smart enough to know that it's bullshit, right? I can put you can browse and you can search to see if the sun is the color blue, and that's what it comes back with, But hey, I'm pretty sure I kind of know, and filter this through. No, it ain't blue. Maybe there's some blue components to it, but it's kind of yellow, right? The evaluation of the data and the information, right? And then the management of it, how to use it, where to put it, how to kind of get around. And then number two is again going back is the communication and collaboration of it. You know, how do you interact with it? How do you share it? How do you kind of engage other people with it? Like kind of calling it digital citizenship on that. And so the collaboration of it, again, no one lives in a box. How to share that information. Kind of what we're doing here is a very kind of good component
Hmm.
of it. Then there's like netiquette, right? That's kind of another part of the communication stuff, and how not to sound like an asshole, or kind of send information might appear like you're being forward, or
The
or
emotional intelligence. Yeah.
so there's a netiquette to it. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you sent me this text and it said this, and well, yeah, you kind of missed the whole point of it, and you think that I'm kind of coming to you. Well, again, kind of cutting it out, but yeah, so there's a netiquette part of it, right? And then the management of your identity, right? And kind of how to keep it safe, where you want to put it, how you're going to kind of get it out, all of those kind of things, right? And then there's that digital, and then there's digital creation, right? How do you create these things? Like, how do you develop the skills to create these things, right? How do you integrate these things into what you're doing? How do you collaborate with the stuff that you just learned into, other ways? And then there's copyrights and licensing, and I'm not going to kind of go there, and then kind of standard programming. And then we mentioned safety, right? You're protecting your
Hmm.
devices. Do you know how to protect your device? Do you know how to protect your personal data? Like kind of protecting like kind of your own health and well-being kind of around that, and protecting your environment. They all kind of fall within safety. And then we're going back to, again, what might be number one, but it's number five is problem solving, right? How do you solve a technical problem? How do I know when this thing is not working? Where do I go and find out how to, how do I fix this? Right. You don't have to have the skill set, but you have to know where to go to get the skill set. And like you said before, there's now YouTube and this and, Coursera's and, or talking to the guy next to you, or kind of any number of things, right? In problem
Networking.
solving, yeah, identifying your need, right? Okay, and okay, for me to solve this, I need to learn Python, which is again a new language. It's not a new language, but oh shit, everyone is doing this stuff and they're doing it in Python. I got to not one. I at least identified it as a problem, and now I'm going to solve it, right? And then again, the big part about the creativity that what you do with it, right? And and the problem. Hey, I just solved this problem, but you know what? This problem can be solved. I can solve another problem in a whole other different area because I came up with this, right? And then like one of my favorite, and again, I use TV and movies and things like that a lot because I'm a latchkey kind of kid. In MASH, you guys remember MASH?
I do. Yes.
So Colonel Potter, who I love, he's one of my favorite characters in TV, and I quote him kind of quite often, right? So he just had the experience, he kind of knows, and they had run out of power in the MASH unit, and they had to keep the blood cold, and nobody knew what to do. And he was like, you know what? My aunt used to put her preserves in the river and kept it cold that way, right? So if you problem solve that, you just kind of being able to kind of express that down, or kind of a really kind of makes it a kind of a creative way to kind of do other things. And then kind of go into the identifying your gaps and kind of things like that, right? Because again, a part of the problem may be that you didn't know the problem, and now you do. You solved it. You said,
Hmm.
"Oh shit, I need to know these 5 things," right? So it's just like again, sometimes it sounds basic, but we're missing a lot of this.
Awesome. And you hit a lot, like I told you before we got on camera. This stuff is very good, and things that people will face, especially those that are working in the corporate world. Yeah, a lot, I've faced a lot of the things that you've mentioned. I've even been laid off a couple of times or two. So I take this time as a shameless plug. If you are laid off, check out my book. The link will be down at the bottom. Lay off the lift off, as we talk about what to do if you've been laid off and how to get back into the working system. Ali Muhammad. Title is on Amazon. But yeah, Rich, as always, you drop very good information. And your website, what is your website for the people so they can check out more, get more information, which that will be in the description as well. But for
Right.
those that's listening, what is
So it's
your, for those
the easiest way in my website, which is basically my full name. So it's www.richardbukuski.com, spelled RICHARD, B as in boy, UKOWSKI.com. I also have a podcast. I also have a really, which I'm saying very, let's say interesting, thought letter that I put out, twice a month, and across again a multidisciplinary subject line. So I'm sure there's something for everyone in it.
be sure to check this out. This man is going to change and transform your life. And of course, he's with the series with
Like
us.
it or
He's
not.
been gracious enough. Yeah. Like it or not, your life is going to change. Now, that's
Right.
a good question. Good statement, because your life can change for the better, or it can change for the worse if you're not keeping up with technology.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
And
remember,
all that is going.
self-efficacy. The word is self is the
yeah.
main.
Starts with you.
Right.
Yeah, join our Discord, matter of fact, so you can get actually with us and talk about this. Our Discord is in the QR code that's right next to Ali. Y'all check us out all the time. We always in the group talking about this type of stuff. So the conversation never ends over there, all right? So pull up.
And you can find
Yeah.
us on Spotify now at Lifestyle After 5 as we run our series, always bringing you the latest and the greatest.
Always. Don't expect nothing less from us, y'all. Ever.
Has always been a great episode. And futurism is something that's not, well, as of right now, not talked about a lot. So you get into this early by listening to our shows and keeping up with the Futurism series. You don't want to wait till the competition, your coworkers and everybody's engroomed and engulfed with it, and now you're like, oh, Futurism. Yeah, I heard something about that a few years ago. Now they've taken off, and now you're trying to catch up. You got nothing to lose but time and wasted potential, as you alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
But
Everyone should be using everyone should put at least 20 minutes of something in your day that's outside your level, outside your comfort level, right? So,
Wow,
just 20
20
minutes a
minutes.
day. Just 20 minutes. Just that's all you need. You add that up, 20 times 7, you get going, after, you got a good hour of positive and again, information that you didn't know, but it just starts with 20 minutes.
You all should be able to do 20 minutes. And of course, you can check us out all the time on our website, www.aliafter5.com. So, as always, another lovely episode. I can't wait to next week when we dive in here deeper and we talk about crime in the digital age and in futurism. This is going to be just as important. And I'm curious as we dive into that one. So, until next time, we'll see you next week.
So long, everyone.
Peace.